now. So we're ready to go.
Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to a monthly meeting of the Saratoga Springs Public Library Board. It's March 14th, 2022, Pi Day. First order of business is the approval of minutes of our last meeting, as well as the executive session. And there was also a special budget meeting on March 2nd. Has everyone had?
I was just going to move approval.
Can we
Okay.
approve them all together, Frank?
Sorry?
Can we
Oh.
approve them together?
Well, the way they're listed, we could, I think, has everyone had a chance to look at the regular meeting minutes and the executive session? If so, and then also the March 2nd special meeting, I think we could approve them together, as long as everyone's had a chance to look at them. And that being so, well,
this is Katie. I'll second Terry's motion.
okay, the motion is to approve the minutes of the February regular meeting and the executive session and the March special meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Okay, we have the financial reports, the February prepaid checks, 69788 to 69789, totaling $429.75. We also have the March warrants, 69790 to 69867, totaling $116,000, $116,174.89. Has everyone had a chance to look at the warrants and the prepaid checks? If there's no questions about that, then I would entertain a motion to accept those.
This is.
Like, I do have one question, just for my own understanding. The Highmark check 69827, I think it is.
That's health insurance. That is, Highmark is the new name of Blue Shield of Northeast New York.
Got it. Okay, good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's funny you should point that out. When I went to sign that, I generally go in and sign checks that are over 10,000. And when I saw that check, I'm like, I didn't know what it was for
Right.
until Eric pointed that out to me.
Good to know.
There being no other questions, I would, does anybody have a motion?
This is Katie. I move to approve the February prepaid checks, 69788 to 69789, and the March warrants, 69790 to 69867.
I'll second that. Those four, all approve? Anybody disapprove? All right, that motion carries. Oh, I'm sorry, that was actually the financial reports category, but that's fine. So now we have the financial reports, and that it's February's prepaids and March warrant summary sheet, which we just did. Then there's the budget report and the income report.
This is Katie. I had a question, Ike, if you can scroll down a little bit on the income report. What is that grant, that SALS grant for, that's $7,000?
You know what, Katie? I knew that was a question that was going to come up, and just before the meeting started, I went to go investigate, but Denise had already gone to work from home. So, you know what? I believe it is likely state aid. which is aid that comes from the state that is passed through sales and then on to libraries. But I believe that is likely the last payment for that, but I'm not 100% certain about that. And Denise, I don't know if you have any recollection of that payment. Denise, did you have any recollection?
No, I honestly don't. I remembered it at the time. I was like, oh yeah. And now I honestly don't remember. Sorry.
Is that the one down below that says Sal's grant for special library aid, 7,000?
That's the one. Yes. Yeah. And I think what that is it's LLSA, it's local library system aid. So it's aid that's passed to the library systems and passed through and on to the individual libraries.
So it's not dedicated to general funds that are available. It's not dedicated to the purpose.
It's not restricted. That's correct.
Well, while we're looking at that page, I was just curious about the miscellaneous column. The $400 figure seemed somewhat larger than in past months. I was wondering if there was any special reason for that or just an accumulation of things.
Again, I'm uncertain about that. I might be able to.
If I remember correctly, the Saratoga Youth Grant of the 14 is part of that. In addition to, there was some other donation we had received. I think it was like $100, but it wasn't any of our normal ones. I would have to look that one up.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions about the income report or the budget report? If not, we need a motion.
This is
I move to accept
Go ahead,
the
Jen.
income and budget report.
This is Katie. I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Financial reports are approved. Next up is the president's report. I don't have a report. So we have the director's report.
Frank, could I just mention for public comment?
Excuse me?
I just wanted to, before we move to the director's report, under public comment.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I
missed that. I got that
Okay.
blocked out for some reason.
Right, okay. I just wanted to have on the record that I, and I think at least one other board member did receive a phone call of complaint about the masking policy, a father and son being barred from the library for not wearing masks on, I think it was President's Day. I shared that by email with the board, but I think it would be worthwhile having that on the record.
Yeah, yes, yeah, thanks, Terry. Yeah, I received a call as well from somebody who left a message on my machine, on my phone. I actually called them back and I left a message asking if they, wanted to discuss something, and I never got a return phone call. But yeah, I think most, if not all of us, got some kind of phone message. But there was no follow-up from him when I inquired, so.
Right, and hopefully with the further relaxing of masking policy, we'll be receiving fewer complaints.
Yes, actually, just before we, I received an email from a patron who was complaining that we were still requiring masks. As it so happened, we lifted the mask policy like that very day, so I was able to respond to tell her that she didn't need to worry about it anymore. Yeah, hopefully that won't be a source of tension anymore.
And are you ready for me to move on? Because that's, that features prominently in my report, our status with the masking. And
That's a great transition.
and that is a great transition. And what we are finding is that it is the case that since we have, since the CDC guidance changed and then changed again, we were able to make the masking optional first for library patrons, and have found that there is much less conflict at the front door than there was prior to the easing of that restriction. So we are seeing that change is making a difference in the amount of conflict. There are some people who are expressing concern that we have lifted that, but they're fewer and farther between than the ones who were concerned that we still had a requirement in place. So that's the confusing thing about that week, because we were watching minute by minute for the change to come. When it came, we were watching two different places, and when it was first initially released, this new guidance, which said that we could make masking optional, they didn't actually undo the old guidance, which says that everybody should wear masks. And so those two things for about a week coexisted. So we had simultaneously diametrically opposing sets of guidance from the CDC. So the way we implemented that was to make the masking optional for members of the public and required for members of the staff. And then about a week later, the guidance that suggested that everybody should still be masking up, that guidance went away. So now we are on a system of making it optional for everybody, whether they're members of the public or members of library staff. We have been doing some counting of people as they come in to see how many people are still masking up. And it seems to be about 50-50 at this point.
Thank you, Ike, for all you've done with your leadership with this and trying to reconcile these all these mandates and different policies.
Yeah, you're welcome. It can be a juggling act sometimes. So unless we are too eager to move forward, I know it's very easy now. If you go out into the world, it almost seems as if people have given up masking altogether, depending on the context. I say in my report that we had the opportunity to take the van into the city center for the Rotary Home and Lifestyle Show. We drove it in there and parked it there, and we're there for the weekend, and had lots of great interactions with members of the public. About 300 people that we interacted with one-on-one while we were there. The vast majority of people there were unmasked. People who were masked up were in the real minority there. So, which could also give some indication about why I talked to two separate people today within the space of an hour who have tested positive for COVID. So I think it might be a little premature to think that things are, totally back to the way they were before. So it does give you a little bit of pause to think that, a lot of us are acting in a way now where we're letting down our guard maybe a little bit prematurely.
Especially if you're in a job or a situation where you're interacting with a lot of people, like a real retail, it's probably a good idea to maintain that if that's what you want to do.
Yeah. And what we're finding is that staff members, when they're interacting with the public, are generally opting to stay masked up. There are very few. Folks working outside or working in isolation are generally opting not to mask up, but when they're in close proximity to one another, they're still exercising that option. All right. Other things about my report, I didn't know if there were questions or not, but it is the case that we have two trustee candidates who returned their petitions to be on the ballot for the two vacancies that we'll have coming up. The vote will be coming up next month, early next month. Those two candidates are Jean Fay who's here with us today, who was appointed to the end of this year to fill the vacancy created by Manita's resignation. And then Nancy Luther has also turned in a petition to be on the ballot. So the two of them will appear on that ballot in the April vote on the 4th.
I wanted to ask you about the meetings. Are we planning to return? What's the status of the state law and the open meetings law? And
so the open meetings law right now, we're able to have this meeting in Zoom, and it seems like there's going to be a change coming imminently within the next few days that will require us to go back to meetings in person. So for now, we're planning meetings in person, those April meetings. We've got 2 meetings, the April 3rd budget hearing, and then the April 10th board meeting, which at this point, we're planning for them to be in person.
thanks.
You're welcome. Okay. Any other questions about my report?
It's good to hear the van's back on the road.
It was fun. We got lots of great compliments on it. So, and it was fun to drive it through the city center too. Not an experience that I thought that I would have. So.
Is Ms. Ferris here?
She is.
I am. Hello. Top part's pretty straightforward. I included, so we started using Hoopla last budget season. July 1st is when we went live with that. And it's a collection where everything is offered to everyone and we pay based on patron use. And there's a huge collection, and it has grown as predicted. So a lot of people are using it.
Does it? Am I reading this right? Like it includes movies and
Yep.
shows and.
What makes it different than some of our other streaming services is that it offers music and comic books, but otherwise it's audiobooks, ebooks, and TV shows. It's more popular or semi-popular movies that people would want to watch, as opposed to Canopy, which is more documentary art films. But I just wanted to point it out, and I kind of included this one because I had communications, but also I knew that several trustees were going to attend the Calm, Cool, and Collected workshop this past Friday with Stephanie Cole. Forgot her last name, is it Adams? That Hoopla, several librarians in Massachusetts discovered that, I don't know how, but they discovered that Hoopla was offering titles that many libraries would never purchase for their print collections or their digital collections based on their collection development policies. And as a result, Hoopla did remove the titles from their collection and sent an email out, which I offer to share with you if you want to learn about it. But it's just discussing more or less that we put our trust in some companies when we offer a wide variety of collections and we don't have control over what is purchased. So that's why I included that in there.
It's very interesting.
It is very interesting. Other than that, the Repair Cafe is this Saturday. We had to open up another meeting room to accommodate the demand, which is fantastic. And we have a waiting list right now. So if anyone's listening out there and are unable to come, we have a wait list and people will be happy to take your spot. And we hope to continue doing these on a regular basis to meet the demand, since there is a high demand for it. That's it. If anyone has any questions.
I had a question, Jen. I saw in your list of conversations, the one about Captain and when they delivered the free lunches about having the van potentially
Yeah.
present. I know at one point when patrons couldn't enter the library, you put out some of those carts of free books that were samples and whatever from the publishers. Did you go through all of those, or are there some of that stock around potentially for that kind of service?
We have basically gone through the entire collection. What publishers are doing now is they're making them all more or less electronic. So the physical advanced reader copy is a rare find now.
Okay.
Katie, that's what many of these behind me are, are those advanced.
Catherine?
So I included some nice happy photos for everyone because we're feeling happy down here these days. Lots of smiling faces. Things are a lot busier, which the staff are really excited. I'm really excited. We are working hard to bring a little bit more of that normal feeling back. And then we're also working on doing some updating in the treehouse room in the hopes that the, COVID climate will get good enough that we'll be ready to reopen. But Rick's guys just did a great job painting over some problems that we had before, freshening things up, and we're working on cleaning things up, purchasing some new toys, getting the room ready to go. So we feel like we're making progress down here. We're very excited.
Are you cleaning up the joke book collection?
Oh, we did. So a few of us were having a discussion. Actually, I think it was a podcast I listened to where they were talking about jokes. And it occurred to me that while we do a good job with our collection development of, keeping things fresh, sometimes the way something looked in the 90s may not be the message we want to send. So we put together just a couple of parameters where we said, it doesn't have to be what I think is funny, but we want it to be presented in a way that suits the library's current feelings about the world. So we did remove a handful of titles that we thought depicted certain nationalities in a way we didn't like. Sometimes it was the joke itself, sometimes it was the artwork. But it was a nice project. A couple of the part-time librarians took point on it and they did a great job.
I thought that was, I just read that. And I thought that was like, that's kind of interesting. But, it made sense. It makes perfect sense. Yeah.
I loved that little video of all of the superhero shields.
Yeah, Sarah and Gina worked really hard on that, and the kids came up with such cool, creative things for it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Catherine. Jen O is not here, correct?
That is correct. She's not here today.
Does anybody have any questions about her report that Mr. Ike can answer?
I did want to say that I had, this program that Callie is doing with drums, the djembe drums that we got from a SALS grant last year and a NISCA grant, I believe. I always forget that it's on the calendar, but I feel it every morning when it starts up because it happens just below my office. And so I had an opportunity to drop in this morning and do a little observation and meet many of the folks from Saratoga Bridges who were participating, and they were having a very good time. It was a lot of fun in there to watch them.
That's great. That just sounds like it's such a great program.
Yeah.
I actually, before I knew that Jen was on vacation, I had sent her an email just with a query about in the database usage statistics at the end of her report. For the ancestry, there's this leap from 690 to 6970. I was wondering if the 6970 figure is correct or possibly a typo.
What I think happens there, Terry, is that the statistics for many of these don't come until after the board meeting. And I think that the 699 is probably underreporting. That's far and away the most. So that's probably the number that was available at the time the report was put together, and then it didn't get an opportunity to get updated. So far and away, Ancestry is the most popular database that we offer.
So the 69770 figure is probably accurate then.
I think it's probably accurate, and,
Oh.
and especially if there's programming or anything that's happening around anything to do with family history or
Right.
genealogy.
Wow,
So
that's impressive.
it's a rabbit hole you can go down. It's amazing how much time you can lose once you start finding things. I found records about, for some reason, one of my great grandmothers, I found probate records where her daughter kept her in pounds and pounds and pounds and pounds of butter. So there were records of her claiming reimbursement for like 1 million pounds of butter. So she must have been a baker, is all I can imagine.
It can be a rabbit hole, because one thing, and the other thing, I was meant to ask Janet about that, because I know Janet's done a lot of this, is like, I'll find records that don't reconcile that, and it's like somebody has got wrong information, somebody's wrong, it's very challenging.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Rick,
Yes, sir.
is there anything in your report that you would particularly like to highlight this evening?
Not necessarily. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but as you know, we're really starting to feel the pain on inventory supplies and pricing increases. Some of these things are very dramatic, and I'm trying to stay ahead of that cycle, but we'll probably finish the year pretty good, but after that I won't be able to really have that kind of inventory due to the cost structures involved. That's pretty much it.
Well, thanks for the work in the children's department that you did.
Mhm. It was the guys. We were surprised to find some hidden things behind toys and stuff that we removed. They ripped a section out of a wall. Evidently, it must have been too heavy, and then they reinstalled it with a plywood backer. So we repaired everything like new before we painted it. So whoever the next people are that do it won't have those issues.
That's great. Thank you. Kelly?
Well, we have a few appointments that we're requesting since the last meeting. And we've been extremely busy just hiring, trying to find people. And then other than that, I said how Ike and I had a meeting with Marshall and Sterling, which used to be Jager and Flynn, about our new insurance, which we don't have all the info on yet. So hopefully maybe next month, I think, Ike, you think, right? But other than that, that's pretty much it this month. Just lots of recruiting, basically.
I wanted to ask you about this feature about updating the handbook that
Yes.
this company called Mineral, which was previously Think HR.
Yep.
Did we use them before?
We did it. We did it. They had, it was like a training resource. That's from what I understand previously.
That's correct, and especially when we were closed to the public during the height of the pandemic. According to the brokers, we, I guess, got the gold medal for the most usage of the training resources that were available at Think HR.
And were they providing us with policies before?
They were not. They were not. So Think HR was purchased by something called Mineral, which has this handbook updating feature, which seems especially useful for anything that's mandated. So it can auto-populate from what it seems, can auto-populate handbooks with new mandated policies.
From the state or?
From the state or whatever the sources of the mandate. So usually it's state, sometimes it's federal, but it's primarily state. And then there is also with this new, from what I understand, with this changeover from Think HR to Mineral, there is also an additional kind of handbook review service that they offer, which may save us a little bit on legal fees from all of those times that when we had to incorporate those policies on our own. It doesn't, the real benefit is that it keeps us up to date and gives us warning when something that may have escaped our attention, some new mandate comes along. For a while there, in the last couple of years, they were coming fast and furious.
I assume there will still be times that we'll need to, at least especially with sensitive topics, to run things by Bon Shenik, our attorneys.
Yes.
That's
Yes,
something I'm concerned about, is when you get something wholesale that you know.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And then of course, everything that becomes official policy will still need an approval process through the board as well.
I'd hate to see the attorneys, not be able to eat. Okay. We can do the appointments now, or we could just do them to, what do you want to do, Ike? You want to do the reopening?
Well, you know what? I think we've already done the old business. It was incorporated into my report, unless there were additional questions about it. So I think we've already covered that.
Was there any more on the budget vote or trustee election?
No, just that we have our 2 trustees. We did the drawing. Sue did the drawing for the order they'll appear on the ballot. We've got our budget hearing. The timing is a little bit different this year from previous years because National Library Week is a week before our regular board meeting. So we have that budget hearing the week before the regular board meeting. So the regular board meeting will actually follow the vote this year.
Okay, so then I guess we just need to do the appointments. Request to appoint 3 individuals. Thank you for providing the resume for the archivist position.
You're welcome. We're very excited about having her come on. I think everybody who's had an opportunity to work with her speaks highly of her and is excited about the opportunity to bring her on board here. And it will also allow us, speaking of expanding hours and reopening, to expand the hours of the Saratoga room too, when she gets on board in a couple of weeks here.
I suppose we could do these together. So I'm going to make a motion to appoint Henry Furnow, I don't know if I'm saying that right, as computer clerk part-time. A motion to appoint Lucas Collins cleaner, and to appoint Michelle Isopo archivist full-time.
Second, this is Heather.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Those appointments are approved. There doesn't seem to be any more business. Is there, Mr. Pulver?
Not that I'm aware of. Nope, that's the end of the agenda.
Okay, then we are adjourned until our next meeting. Thank you all. Have a nice evening.
Thanks. Good night, everyone.
All right.